You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I know
But
exactly what you're saying.
what do you think about all this Hunter Biden shit? I mean,
Crazy,
how is that in the
dude.
American people? Are they aware of it? Are they ignoring it? The voters, I mean, do you think that's going to have an impact, a real impact? Or people are just made up their minds and they're going to say, fuck, this is all just to make us change our vote, but there's nothing to it.
It's. I think it's real. I think he's a loser. He's a piece of crap. He's a piece of shit.
No,
And
agree. I
it's
agree with you, bro.
obvious
I agree.
he has uh, no father figure, and Biden's done a horrible job raising his own kid. And if that's a reflection of his character in terms of his own uh, fatherhood or just father raising or child raising, for what it's worth, then how am I going to elect a president that can't even take care of his own family?
That's right.
You know, and
But, but
granted, yeah, I mean, everyone rebels and they're outcasts and all that, whatever. But come on, um, that's a little much. And when you see a collusion of what they've done, and for what it's worth, it seems like Joe Biden's been in politics for 47 years, and how has he made all that money? He's got a house in Martha's Vineyard, a mansion on the beach. It's
fuck,
because his family is making
that's
money.
what, like
You
$100 million.
know, money under the table.
Hey man, what are you eating? Asian food?
Ko. I'm eating the soup, ramen soup. So
Oh,
yeah,
I love it. I love it, man. Hey, one
yeah, me
question.
too.
What do you think the American voters are thinking like you, or
By the
they're
way,
basically
we're live on YouTube. So expats in Lima representing.
that's good. But do you think really
The
that
one the one are 0 viewers right now. But yes, I send you the link you can share with people.
no, but seriously, Lansen, do you think this whole thing is going to impact a lot the result of the election, or people have basically made up their minds they're not going to change the way they think for anything now?
Oh no, I mean, so as a United States citizen, I always watch the debates, and I take out all that information up until the day I vote, until November. So I think it will have an impact on people's, just like Hillary with her emails that came out in October or whatever last year, right, or 4 years ago. It was the same issue, and people started talking about crooked Hillary and lock her up. It's the same thing with Biden, and you find enough dirt on him, it is what
But
it is. It's his son, so it's really, for what it's worth, it's not really directly with Biden, even though you could say that he can't raise his own kids. You can't. Hunter Biden's a grown man, so if he's a loser, he's a loser. But Biden still kind of gets a jail out of free card because it's really not him being so corrupt. So it's not as bad as Hillary, but it's still an issue. And yeah, I do think it'll affect voters' mentality going into November. I think people that are on the fence are going to be more pro-Trump, and Trump has looked really great. I mean, he's a rock star, in terms of branding, marketing, and he really carries himself well, even after COVID, right? So he's he's doing fantastic.
man, this whole thing was like out of a reality, or like what has been happening the last 2 weeks in this election with this guy getting out of the debate, going into the hospital for COVID treatment, then coming back, you know, taking out his stupid mask And then, you know what I'm saying? Now he's doing rallies.
It's
He's like
super
Superman.
impressive. Someone's gonna have a movie about this like 10 years from now, right?
Netflix,
Like the
Netflix, Netflix
they're gonna have a
never
movie about
exactly, exactly. Man, that was incredible. That guy is really something, huh? You know, Donald Trump. I mean,
I mean, people are right in the now, and like, so for what it's worth, you know, people that are close to me are they don't like Trump, and I realize that one reason is because it's not with what he says, like in terms of what he's the context. It's more about the way he makes them feel. There's, and I kind of made an analogy when I was talking to this person, and I said, well, really what it is to me, it's like you have this certain natural frequency inside you, right? And when he speaks, it resonates with that. It resonates with your natural frequency. So you're resonating. And it's like this loud sound or noise that is like stinging and ringing in your ear, right? You just hate it. It's like a very painful, chalk nails on a chalkboard type pain. And so when he's speaking and these people that have this natural frequency feel it, it resonates with them and it turns them off, right? And I don't have that natural frequency, So when he speaks, like I'm not, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't resonate with me, right? So because when I talk to them, they don't have an argument or they actually agree with what he's saying in terms of context, but they just don't like the way he presents himself and
well, you know what I
they
think
think
happened.
it's
You know what I
annoying.
think is? I really think what happens, apart from what you're saying, this frequency thing. I really think that a lot of people have really been victims of this whole media stupidity. You know,
Yeah.
the media,
They're the ones that are making the money.
exactly. They have gotten into their brains. You know what I'm saying? They have put this chip that basically the guy is Hitler and he is to be loathed. And they have not realized that and they have not done anything. But you know why I'm saying this? Because every time I see the guys walking, I see the guys getting into an airport, I see the guys doing a rally. You said it. I mean, it's like a fucking rock star. So a rock star really vibrates with a hell of a lot of people, right? I think
Mhm.
that guy has got that. There's no question about that. If the guy was just going in a bus, you know, east coast to west coast, all he would see, both sides of the road is just people waving at him. I mean, people just love him in
Well, it's
America.
I
People
think
just
people are realizing, I grew up with Trump, right? I have a couple of his books, The Art of the Deal. I actually have it in some of his books
yeah,
in
true.
Spanish. And he's written some really cool things like billionaire mentality. And it when you actually read them and look into them, it's more of like a Tony Robbins motivational type thinking, right?
Yeah,
But and I understand his character obviously may have some flaws with it, but I look at the whole context. At the same time, I also look at the other candidate, and I'm binary. Which candidate's better, in terms of my opinion, in terms of where I want to see run the country. And he was better than Hillary 4 years ago, and as of right now, he's better than Biden. So I vote for the best candidate. I don't not vote because I want my vote to count, somehow. So
are you
that's
gonna
how I
vote?
look.
Are you gonna vote by mail?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna go to the embassy and put in my vote by mail.
But you have solicited, right? Your vote.
What was
I mean,
that?
what I'm talking is that there's this whole issue that they are going to steal the election because of the mail votes. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
but they're still gonna they're still gonna need them, right? Because there's war fighters all over the world that still vote by mail. A lot of U.S. embassy representatives, staff people here in Peru, they're voting by mail. So it's a small percentage. It's literally like probably 10%. The only reason why it's an issue now is because of COVID. People don't want to go to like a football field or however they're going to set up these voting places. Usually it's schools or churches. That's typically, and what it does, they take all the gerrymandering, right? All the different districts within your zip code, and you go to like the local church or you go to like the local school.
Right.
Probably try to do that, but maybe they'll try to create. It'd be smart if they had tents and just had it outside, right? And then you just get scanned via temperature, and if you're above whatever it is, 37 Celsius or something, then you're not going to vote, right? Or you
But do
for
you
real.
do you, do you think, Lanson, do you think there's going to be mail fraud?
So there's a real big issue. I'll give you a quick case. So Trump is right that there has been cases where they found with his name on it, vote for Trump, vote signed and voted for Trump in the trash can. Now, granted, it's like a handful of ballots, but what's happening in Minnesota is a fraud, outright fraud. So we have this Muslim, uh, Ilhan Omar, this
Right.
Somalian, that's now a U.S. citizen through kind of a shady way of going about it, where she married her brother. Anyways, she is a representative, just like a House representative, not a senator or anything like that. And she supposedly, allegedly, and there's a lot of video, like Facebook video and Twitter video of her Somali community going out and knocking on doors and paying people to get those ballots from older people or whatever, or saying, hey, go vote and then I'll pay you X amount of money. And she's been getting a bunch of money from Arab countries, Muslim countries, and she's essentially like their Trojan horse, whether she's trying to influence Muslim, maybe Sharia law, whatever, within the United States. And it's super illegal, and she should be locked up. She should be in jail. And nobody's talking about that, on the news, and it should be talked about. And essentially, Trump has brought it up, and during some of his, speeches, his campaigns, and she should be prosecuted, or at least investigated and prosecuted just through court. And if she's found guilty, she's found guilty. If she's not found guilty, and those are false allegations, okay. But at least the court system handles that. So I think she's being investigated, which is good. She should not be elected for another term. I think she was a waste of money, taxpayer money, and she's the epitome of what, if she's not a moderate Muslim at all. She's Somalian. She still thinks like that, and I think she's a radical terrorist, Islamic wannabe congresswoman, because she doesn't really have any policies other than just bashing Trump or talking a bunch of nonsense. She's not intelligent whatsoever. When she speaks, she's not eloquent like yourself. So it's unfortunate that some of these people are actually getting into these offices like the House of Representatives, but they are because it's just maybe something different, status quo, to test the status quo. And there's a big Somali population in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so, yeah, the way they're getting her in is through these ballots. And so you have enough ballots, you can essentially create fraud, right? Not fraud where you're voting twice or three times or five times. What they're doing is they're colluding, right? They're just paying people off to take their ballots and then vote for her. That's not right. That's corruption, and that's not tolerated in the United States.
Wow. Wow.
Insane. It's insane.
But
And I
do you
have
think?
I have no problem with Muslims. I don't. I just with respect to what she said, and I just listen to the way they talk, all the candidates and the representatives, and she's a poison pill. She's not she's a Somalian. She's not a United States representative, and her communities, some of her communities like that too. I'm not going to speak for all of her community, but when they interview them, they're like, do you believe in the Constitution, the US law, or the Sharia law? And they're like, well, I'm a Muslim, so I believe in the Sharia law. If that's the case, you're not assimilating. You should be leaving. You should get the hell out of the country and go back to wherever you came from. You're not welcome in the United States. You need to assimilate, just like anything else. I'm here in Peru, right? I'm assimilating. I'm speaking Espanol. I'm learning the law. I'm not getting in trouble, and I live here in Peru as an expat. That's the right thing to do.
You are going to the bullfights.
I'm going to both sides, drinking Pisco. I'm going to the Amazon. I'm doing synthetic biology in the jungle. I'm assimilating, buddy. And that's how you should do it, just like everyone else. You don't go speak Somalian or whatever they speak. You go try to speak English. I know it's going to be a curve, just like me. I'm actually understanding and respecting it and appreciating. So I am empathetic for immigrants that, English is not their native tongue. But I think
First love.
after 5 years, you have to be speaking English, like attempting to speak English. Why? Because more than 80, 90, 80, more than 80% speak English, And so you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but the law is in English and you can't make the excuse like you didn't know what the law was. Like you're drinking and driving
Right.
because you don't know. No, you go to jail. So it's the same thing here. I need to know the laws and understand, what the laws are. And if I don't obey them, there's no excuse, right? I should know 'em. Anyhow, I think it's to answer your question. Yes, there's could be some fraud with mail-in voting. With respect to specific representatives, I don't think it's going to be a big issue with COVID. Why? Because um, people are going to go out and vote in person. Most people. Why? Because we're getting more control under the COVID situation. People have been standing in lines at the grocery store. What's the difference of standing in line and voter registration? So it's normal to go vote in person and get your sticker that I voted. I don't think it's going to be a big amount of ballots because yeah, it's a pandemic, but it's getting much better. Trump went in, he left, he didn't die. So if people are thinking, well, if he didn't die, then I'm not going to die. So they're not scared anymore of COVID. It's going to suck if you catch it. And if you're high risk, you're high risk. And that's not going to be cool. But the whole fear mongering and fear factor is over. That happened up until Trump. And, when he got it, I was like, it was really early in the morning. And I think it was like 1 a.m. And I was like, shit. And then I checked the market and like the futures went down fucking 600 points or something. I was like, shit. But and then the next day it dropped, but then it came back, whatever. And I actually was thinking, you know what? Because of what I've seen in terms of what I've been reading, the seventh or eighth day, yeah, you feel pretty bad the first couple of days, and then it's like a euphoria. You're taking all these drugs, so the third and fourth day you feel better. You don't even feel like you have a fever. It's not until the seventh or eighth day that people are getting put on ventilators. Like all of a sudden it just hits you. Well, he got past the seventh or eighth day, so I was waiting the whole week to see if he was going to go to the hospital again, and he didn't. So when he made it to the ninth day, I was like, okay, he's alive now, and if he's alive, then America's like COVID was this high in terms of the meter, like an 8 or a 9 in terms of like the danger zone. It's now like at a 5. Nobody thinks it's that big of a deal anymore, unless China comes up with a new virus and fucks us over again. So we'll see.
Fucking Chinese, man. But it turns out
Okay. I've had my own experiences with Chinese people and the culture, and God, it fits with all the experiences I've had with the Chinese culture that this kind of shit was brought from them.
I think to me it's obvious that this is not a natural virus, man. That thing has been been
Your
fabricated.
your screen's frozen. You want to try to freeze your screen?
Okay, better.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of blocky, but it's all good. Maybe it'll come back. But go ahead. I can hear you
Yeah,
fine.
but I am completely almost certain that this virus has been made by with human intervention in that Wuhan lab. You have no idea how
Tell me.
many papers on coronavirus from bats they had published. They were the number one in the world in bat coronavirus research. So I mean, coincidences um, are not. I don't think are not acceptable um, in this case. I really think that
Yeah,
this whole thing
I,
been
I think you're right. Coincidences are not acceptable in this case because it's from
no,
you know, it's
exactly.
from if it was from Shanghai and a wet market there, okay, maybe.
Exactly.
But it's from Wuhan and that laboratory is from there. So
It's
that's
too obvious. It's too obvious. But I think China is in trouble now. Looks to me that China is in trouble. I mean, I am disappointed by Xi Jinping. I think he has reckless policies, reckless attitude, and I am surprised why the Chinese Communist Party, you know, has, hasn't hasn't gotten rid of it. I mean, the United States of America is provoking Xi Jinping into taking military action, and they are basically falling into the trap like babies. It doesn't look like an ancient nation wisdom versus the new nation naivety. It looks the other way around. I mean, have you seen that? I mean, it's like everybody, like China doesn't have any friend now. Everybody is really, really taking stance against them. Not just words, but making military moves, and the Russians, the Indians, the Vietnamese, the Indonesians, the Malaysians, the Japanese, Taiwanese, I mean, South Koreans, they're they're really surrounded. And Mike Pompeo, that son of a bitch, he spends all his time in fucking Japan and in the Philippines and in the Vietnam. I mean, they are really playing a hard ball with the Chinese. But the Chinese are fucked up. They are basically, I don't know, man. I think they are gonna try to take on Taiwan. I think if Donald Trump gets reelected, they're gonna they're gonna try to take on Taiwan.
I think that'll start a World War IV.
No, I don't think so. I think they're gonna kick the Chinese ass. I think World War Four, man. World War Four is like if you don't have any allies, there's no World War. I mean, who's the ally of China?
Iran.
I mean, Iran? You must be kidding. Iran is a broken country. Iran is
Iran,
a broken country.
man, you kidding me? They're building
Yeah,
nuclear
man.
weapons to blow up Israel.
What nuclear weapon? I mean, there has been like 14 explosions in Baghdad.
They don't
Did you
need
see that?
they don't need to make up any nuclear weapons. China's going to give them the nuclear weapons. You kidding me? China will deliver it on the railroad that they've already built with the whole Silk Road that they've created.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Buy arms from China. That's what's going to happen.
I don't think the Ayatollahs have gotten the support of their people. Iran right now is a country in big trouble. I mean, they're on their knees. I mean, they don't really have their people backing them anymore. Whereas China, they do have the people behind. That's what makes them dangerous. But I think if there is a conflagration, I think if China attacks Taiwan, what you're gonna see is that they're gonna bomb the hell out of the Chinese coastal cities. They're gonna do a lot of damage on the Chinese, you know what I'm saying, physical infrastructure. A lot of it, because they are surrounded already. I mean,
that'll create because China has a great military power. They may not know how to use their military, but they have a military.
Well, they have
power.
a great military power. For what? For crushing their own people. They don't have a navy. They don't have naval bases anywhere in the world. Not even the China Sea, man. Where do they dock their warships? Where do they dock them?
They have a good amount of submarines. I think they actually have more submarines in the US now. But doesn't mean that they're good submarines. They're not nuclear, or they're nuclear, but they're not really the more impressive nuclear. They don't have any. They're building aircraft carriers, but the truth is that
they're building aircraft carriers for 20 years.
We've been talking about for the past 10 years at least. We've been building up the PACOM region, Pacific area of interest, and fortifying that region from Hawaii to Taiwan to Japan to South Korea, surrounding them on the coast. So you're right. I agree. It's easy to attack them right now on the coastal cities. So this is culminating to definitely already culminating to a Cold War, right? Would you agree? And now the war is going to be through trade, because everyone's now shifting out of China. Japan started that initially in May. Most even though it's going to cost more to go from Mexico or go from Europe, most companies are transitioning and maybe looking for synergies or cost savings or maybe higher quality, but they're pivoting to different subcontractors independent of China. India is starting to ramp up some of their production. So China is going to lose a lot of that base, especially if Trump stays in office, which is a great thing, because China's horrible in trade too. There's tons of counterfeit stuff. The U.S. gave quite a bit of incentives to China forever, because they're a, quote, developing country. They are the second largest country in the world now, right? They're not developing anymore. They're developed, And so because they're developing, they literally had free shipping, like taxpayer money, U.S. taxpayer money. You could send anything, like any of the stuff they're making, they would be put on a U.S. plane and shipped postal for free. Some of the biggest cost is logistics cost, is shipping costs. They didn't have to pay for any of that. They got that for free. And so a lot of their contractors from different countries or the U.S., they had to add on their shipping costs, and therefore they were too costly. Now they're having to pay for their own shipping, which they should. Simple things like that, Trump put back in, got rid of. Just stupid trade agreements for some reason that, at the end of the day, the U.S. is like having to fight behind, having to do business behind with their hands behind their back, while everybody else has five hands and hand-me-outs and subsidies. Nothing's been fair with respect to the amount of money they put in or the types of incentives they've gotten. So now we're trying to bring people back on a level playing field and create more internal investment as well. So I'm glad to see that. I think the trade is being negotiated, and Pompeo is the right Secretary of State. He's the best Secretary of State we have had in a while, and I'm super happy that he's been doing that. He's fantastic, and I could see him running for president after Trump leaves office in 4 years.
Wow.
Just like
You know,
Hillary
he's
running for president, I would nominate him to run for president. He probably will run for president. He was a senator before, Secretary of State. He'll still be Secretary of State. He'll know so much more after 4 years. He's created peace in the Middle East, right? UAE is coming on. Maybe Saudi Arabia might come on. All of the other smaller countries like Qatar, Yemen, they're all going to probably come on, right? Jordan, Turkey. So if he's done all that indirectly behind the scenes for Trump, I could see him run for president, and he'll unite the country because he's not this polarizing figure like Trump.
well, I never thought about that. Pompeo for president.
You'll see it. You'll see it in maybe 2024, maybe 2030, maybe 2028. I could see it 2024, where Trump nominates Pompeo to take next in line and kind of keep the administration going for the next decade. The Roaring 20s. It's gonna be the Roaring 20s for the U.S. for the next decade. That's my hypothesis.
What I told you, I think I told you, but I even wrote about that thing because the conventional wisdom is a piece of shit, and it was according to the conventional wisdom, the United States is in decadence. It's in decadence, and China is, going to take over, and there's nothing you could do about it, right? But my take on that was that you have to be careful when you talk about somebody's funeral, because maybe you are the one who is going to be in the funeral before that guy, right?
Yep.
And
You might have
America
COVID.
is to be feared. I mean,
Yeah, Bob.
I don't see the weaknesses in the American system that other people seem to see, because maybe I'm not so well acquainted, but for the thing I know, I don't think China in our lifetime will really topple the strength of the United States. I think to do that, I mean, let me tell you, if the Chinese were to invade Taiwan and were successful at that, the whole thing changes. The whole game changes. You know what I'm saying? Because if China has a way to get its own harbors, its own ports out of the China Sea, right? Then it's game over for the US, right? Basically.
Yep.
But I mean, to be honest with you and to speak plainly, I never really thought about the possibility that the Chinese president was so stupid. I
don't think he's stupid. Why do you say he's so stupid? I think he's a smart guy.
Smart guy.
Supposedly,
I think.
China picks
Listen,
the brightest and the best people to run their government. That's how the government works in China.
well, they picked Xi Jinping,
What the US
and look, listen. I mean, this guy. There was a whole goodwill, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt type of situation in the world with regards to China just 2 years ago. Just 2 years ago, even in Peru, people were saying, look, we are sort of a bit tired of the gringos. Why don't we give a chance to the Chinese? After all, the Chinese are not prepotent. The gringos are prepotent. They don't bomb you. They just come and do. I mean, we had that conversation, right?
Yeah.
All China needed to do, to my view, was to cozy their neighbors. If there were some islands in dispute with Philippines, say, go to the president of Philippines. Give them the fucking islands. Give them. Give them to. Listen, here's your islands. This is a gift from the Chinese people because we love you, because you're our brothers, right? The only
Mhm.
thing we ask is to help us, docking a few ships in your harbors and give us the opportunity to develop those islands with Chinese technology, right? Then go to Vietnam, do the same thing. Go to Indonesia, same thing, right? Go to Japan, make peace, correct? Things like that.
Yeah.
So people say, okay, this is a new China. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. After all, we're all Asian, and Americans are not Asian. So bye bye, USA. We're with China now. That's it. That's all they needed to do. But what did they do? They started to bully Philippines, to kick the ass of Vietnam, threaten Indonesia. They even say they publish in their what's it called they have a newspaper which is like the official whatever of the Chinese Communist Party, and they published an article where they reminded the readers that Vladivostok was really a Manchurian harbor, and it has always been until the Japanese swept away the Manchu last emperor, and then the Soviets came and took advantage of the situation and got and grabbed the Pacific port of Vladivostok, which is historically true. But you need to be really stupid to write that. Guess what? I mean, Putin has canceled all the shipments of high technology weapons, to China. They were selling them radars, last the last technology planes. They are not selling that anymore, and they have put like 500 tanks in the border with China, and nuclear weapons too. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
There was not only that, there was a little battle in the Himalayas
Yeah. I
between
saw that.
the army of India and the army of the Chinese, and India handsomely beat the Chinese to submission. So Modi now is talking freedom for Tibet. I mean, nobody knows who they work for, but I think that the big winner of this is going to be India, not China.
I think the world would love to see that. You know, they would
Yeah,
love
I
to
mean,
see.
yes,
Trump has
yes,
mentioned
really
Trump just
fucking
mentioned something
smart.
about Tibet. I think he mentioned something about getting the Dalai Lama back to Tibet or something like that. And if that's the case, I think the world would love to see that. It's horrible. It's atrocious of what the Chinese have done to the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan people. It's horrible. So yeah,
Look, I mean,
I think
if
that could trigger World War IV right there because you have all these allies that would love to see that happen. No one's been, shit. The Dalai Lama has been living in exile. We're in Dharamsala for forever. So yeah.
well, I don't know, but I think if Donald Trump gets reelected, and what do you think? What are his chances of getting reelected? Pretty good.
I think they're super high. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get a refill. Yes, I say if I was a betting man, if I could find a place to bet, maybe there's some betting stuff down here. He's got an 80% chance right now. The polls
Yeah,
say,
it looks
but
like that to me.
when I look at the crowds and I just have the vibe like, who wants to vote for Biden? Come on.
Man, I mean, that guy is fucking hiding in his basement. I mean, laughing, laughing. ¿Ya se comieron tu tortilla? Grito.
Right there. I would love to take a poll. I would
What?
love of people here in Peruvians, of who they think will win the United States. I know it's kind of like
No, man.
well,
If you think,
I know it's chauvinistic or whatever, Western chauvinistic to do that because I'm in Peru, and they may not even know. Like I'm forcing them to kind of talk about U.S. politics, but I'd love them to say who they think would win, and I bet you 80% of them won't even know who Joe Biden is.
no, I'll tell you one thing. People were repeating the press litany, right? Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Trump is a piece of shit. Donald
Yeah,
Trump is a piece of shit.
how is it being perceived here? How is it being perceived here? I haven't followed it at all. Tell me.
Now it's different. Now, if you you know, Latin people, you know us. We are pretty macho guys. Even the women are macho. And Donald Trump definitely projects a very good image for the Latin guy. I mean, this guy is strong. He kicks ass. Women love him. I mean, all the traps they put to him, he just you know destroys them like nothing. I think Donald Trump is gonna win big with the Latin vote.
I think so too. And what's funny, you mentioned that, and you know, my on my wife's side, their family, they all are like not Biden, but they want Hillary to win or Democrats, and and they see me, they're like, oh, he's a Trump supporter. But I know deep down inside, they're like, yeah, Trump's way better than than Biden. I know they're thinking
Uh,
it. They don't want to say
Trump
it.
Trump is gonna win in Puerto Rico. Trump is
Mhm.
gonna win in.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the women don't like him. At least because they have this frequency thing that resonates with them. But when they get rid of the frequency shit and actually look at him and they compare him with the other candidate, they love him. I'm sure they do. They're just not saying it. You know.
Well, you cannot say that you love Donald Trump because they all gang up on you. In the media, the
Right.
social networks, all that.
At
You
home, they're
say,
like,
you say I love Donald Trump. Oh, you are
dude,
misogynistic.
I sent a video. I sent a video where Trump was talking about Puerto Rico, and he said that he wanted to make Puerto Rico great again too, with manufacturing jobs. He said it was so sad, which is exactly the way I feel. It was so sad to see all these companies leave in the early 2000s because of tax incentives and poor government, policies. I want to make Puerto Rico a manufacturing island again, and bring jobs back. That's what he said. And I sent that to the family in the chat, and they're all like, boo. And I'm like, did you not watch it? Like, come on, it's about Puerto Rico and creating jobs. How many other candidates have said that? None. Zero. That's the right thing to
The,
say. And just
the difference
because it
that,
like sounds, they boo them. No, I if I ever get into politics, which probably won't happen, I will push that because I think Puerto Rico is a great manufacturing island.
I used to say the same thing. I will never get into politics, and there I am. So, well, it's important. I mean, for a guy like you, that you see the United States now from outside, from the country of Peru. You see your country from Peru. Like
Mhm.
when I saw my country from the USA, I also became more patriotic because you love your country more when you are like you love your dad more. It's always the same, right? When you are far and
Right.
you're missing.
Right.
If you don't
Yeah.
care, if it's a piece of shit to you, then you don't miss. You say,
Right.
oh, and you understand better your country problems and your country's strengths. You understand better from outside because when you're in the country, you don't think too much about that. It's just your country and that's it. But
Yeah. Take it for granted.
you
When
take
you
it
get
for
to
granted.
Yeah, when you get to see, not the grass is greener or whatever, but you get to see culture and lifestyle in a different area, you also obviously appreciate where you come from. You miss the parts of it that you would come from. Not saying where you come from is better or worse than where you're at, right? I'm just saying you start to ruminate and remember,
Yeah,
different positive experiences, and then you also see the way maybe the country, the local citizens are seeing things and what's happening. And from looking from outside in, you can always be like that consultant, that goes into a company and says, "Hey, here are the blind spots, this, and this," and help with a new strategy, right? And that's kind of the way I see the U.S., right? I'm like looking from outside, and I'm like, "Hey, here's a blind spot. Here's a blind spot. This is where Trump is saying this. That's spot on. We need to fill this gap or whatever, right?" And you start seeing more objectively, I guess, and that's a good thing. I recommend everyone to be an expat for sure.
yeah, for sure. You learned so much about that.
I would love.
Yeah.
I'm not so tied into the expat community. There's a Facebook group. A lot of times when I see their Facebook uh, chats on the expat, they're usually like complaining about whether it's Peru or they're complaining about the states. Um, and I don't like talking to complainers. So
The expat communities quite often are like that. They're a piece of shit, basically. I mean,
it,
you don't want
it's
to do them.
it's
Yeah,
like, well, it's almost as if like you want to start like a new group that doesn't complain and maybe makes fun of them or something, like our group right
yeah.
here.
I think the expat community, they get a lot of people with tolerance problems. You would not believe the amount of, I don't know, racist comments I heard. Like, if you're an expat, for example, even in an Arab country, and then you go to this, bars where all the expat, the British expats, let's say, shit, man, they just talk so much awful things. Then you tell them, I mean, you must hate the country. I mean, why don't you leave? You know, is the pay is good. Fuck. I mean, what a shit life, man. Doing what you do in a country that you hate just for the money. Well, maybe you cannot get a good job anywhere else.
Yeah,
Because you're right.
you kind of want to call them out, right? Um, because that's not really an expat. You know what I'm saying? So to
Yeah, no,
me, I don't. Maybe I can Google the definition right now, but like I feel I'm the epitome of an expat, right? I'm not a staffer at the embassy being paid by U.S. tax dollars to go live outside and do work or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing my own thing
yeah.
as we're doing my own thing. So like I think I'm an expat, like the epitome of what an expat should be, is trying to hustle and make it somewhere else outside of their comfort zone, assimilating, learning a new language. By the way, I want to do
Yeah.
these español going forward, man. Yo hablo español, and I think that's the true expat. And so if we can create a community around those like-minded people, I think that'd be cool, right? I don't want to be around a
Yeah.
bunch of cleaners and pussies that you know they're just a waste of time and wasting taxpayer money.
Hey, man, talking about getting your so out of your zone of comfort, but the bad thing is this year we don't have any bullfights anymore. This year,
Really?
you last year, this month, last year, we're in the Plaza de Acho. You remember?
Gee, what?
There are
It's
no
like they cut no mas. Like,
no this year because of COVID.
okay, yeah. But next year, see, right?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it
Did,
was in
did I
November last time, right? I think so.
I book what?
Wasn't it November time frame?
This time. It was
Yeah,
this time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was just this time. Yeah. And there's nothing anymore because of this COVID thing. And well, what do you think about the way in which we Peruvians have handled the COVID thing and everybody with masks everywhere? What do you think about that?
That's a good question. Before I answer that, I want to let you know I was at a farmer's market in Bronco and I saw a guy selling the horns of the bulls. And I bought a mug out of a horn that you can wear on your belt, like a Viking. And so I bought that. And I bought a comb made out of the horn. It smells like shit, but it's pretty cool to have like a horn, comb. Anyways, so to answer your question, yeah, it's been handled really well. Actually, I'm impressed. I think the
Well,
response has been much better than the U.S. for sure. At least where I live, here in Miraflores, that the grocery stores, the way they're delivering the food, how consistent they are with the temperature and the spray. Uh, I think it's been fantastic. And when I look back and talk even with family in the States, it's it's not even near compared to what it is here. So my hats off to at least handling of the COVID, meaning the safety part of it. Now, granted, uh, I haven't been. I'm still listening, but tell me about, have they mandated? Like, has the government created this, whatever you call it? Have they kind of been changing the laws and almost like a militant rule where they're kind of constricting people's rights on doing things like they're mandating you to wear a mask or things that would seem unconstitutional, or no? If they haven't, I mean, I've just been wearing masks because uh, I think it's the right thing to do. That's just my opinion, but it doesn't mean you have to have it on.
well, basically, people are shit scared all around me. People are very, very scared of COVID, and therefore there hasn't really been a lot of dissenters or a lot of dissent for for this mask wearing rules or all the other things.
And I'll tell you,
People,
reason personally for me, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to have to go to the hospital, even though I go to like
no,
Del Monte or whatever. Uh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to put myself in there or get my wife sick. So, and I don't. I maybe may I'm sure I've been to Delgado and I know the hospital is fine with the equipment, but maybe it's overwhelmed and they don't have a ventilator for me or whatever, right? Where I know in the States there's a ton of capacity, so the probability of dying is super low. Where here, I might not be able to get oxygen. I don't know.
well, I don't think I'll go to the hospital even if I get COVID. I don't think I will do that.
Well,
I
if
don't
there was
think
a
so.
stage, right? Like I agree. I would stay home in quarantine. If I felt like I needed to go to the hospital, I don't want to go there. Does that make sense? Like,
Man,
so
man, if you, God forbid, if you get this shit and for some reason your body reacts in such a way that you are fucking dying, I mean, I'd rather go to the hospital than die. I
right.
mean, that being said, I mean, I have been with high fevers a lot of times in my life with very bad flu, and if I felt something like that and they told me this is COVID, but I'm feeling, I'm just having a bad flu and throwing up and lots of fever, and that's all I feel, I won't go to the hospital. I just
Yeah.
let my immunological system do its job, I mean, if it's too bad, I just have a couple of pisco shots and sleep, which is what I've always done when I am with a very bad flu. I had in the United States, I had very, very bad flu in year 1988. I went to interview to London and I was already feeling bad in the plane. And I got to my home in Philly. Oh no, in New York. I was living in New York, almost, like I was just walking on my knees, and I was like one whole week with very high fever. I still have the picture I took of myself when I came out of the whole thing. I lost like I don't know, 8 kilos, something like that.
Wow.
And then in Europe, I had that thing twice, very bad. And then in Peru, a year and a half ago, I was also with. So I mean, it's a coronavirus. That's all it is. It's a
Yeah.
fucking coronavirus. There's no difference between this virus and any other coronavirus. Essentially speaking, it's the same thing. But for some reason, and this whole COVID thing has, I don't know, has meant that there has been a global lockdown of the whole fucking economy. And we have been locked down for 1 year now. And I'm still trying to get my arms around it, around the facts. Because if I see the fucking numbers, you don't need to you don't need to be a PhD in Wharton School to look at those numbers. I told you this, I think, a month or two ago. And where is the justification for that? Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is the government justification for that? I mean, look at the number of contagions, look at the number of dead people, look at the number of hospitalizations. What's going on here?
Yeah. No,
I mean, there have
I think overall
no.
now we're past the orange and red danger zone. We're in the yellow now. So the country can open up and stuff can go back to normal, and by this time they should have enough PPE and capacity from wherever the hell they got it from, probably China, and go do your thing. And if you catch it, you catch it, right? But summer's coming in, right? So they need to open up. And if they haven't, and they're continuing to not do that, that's an issue, right? You look at the data with respect to mortality. Yeah, okay, UK's blowing up, Spain's blowing up, Italy's blowing up, but those are cases. When you look at their mortality, if you look at the mortality, it's going up a little bit, but not much. It's not spiking like the way it was when everyone was dying in April, right?
So
Uh,
if you
that's the real
you realize
is the
the media
mortality,
now,
and there's no
yeah,
mortality rate. So that means that no one's dying, that they've got the therapeutics and all of the care under control. So unless you live in a place that doesn't have the resources, like maybe Bolivia, but maybe people aren't even going to Bolivia, so there's not any coronavirus there, then you're fine.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the media is not talking about deaths anymore. I don't you
You need to
I
talk
don't
about
you
deaths.
realize
You can't talk about
they're
cases.
talking
Cases are cases.
cases.
You talk about
But
deaths, and
then
deaths.
what is the point of talking about cases? I mean,
Right.
what is the goddamn point of talking about cases? It's so obvious to me that something's gone wrong
Cases don't mean
because
anything anymore. Why? Because cases
this is don't
cases
shit,
are
man.
cases are going to be high because people have tests now. They didn't have tests before, so they should be high. You should be testing everybody, right? Doesn't mean
This
you'll
thing.
get. Doesn't mean you'll die. And there's
Okay,
enough
let's say
data out there that
that.
if you're under 60 years old, the probability of dying is super low, like 95% or 5%.
Exactly.
like nothing. Kids don't get hurt. Go back to school. Like, so the data, doesn't matter where you're at, says that only the really old and the people with issues should probably stay locked down and have some process for people to see them. And I have a mentor of mine who's, I don't know, he's probably high 70s. He's retired and he's still staying locked down, and it sucks for him. He's retired, but that's the way it is. But other than that, everybody else needs to go back to work. The economy needs to keep going. Yeah, I've been looking
Well,
at. I've been watching some of the local companies like Pacas Mayao, Nexa, Interbank. They trade on the New York. They trade on the U.S. Stock Exchange, and Pacas Mayao is kind of rebounding because a lot of infrastructure is going on right now, right, with the cement. Uh, Next, I think the mines are starting up again, and Interbank's been hurt, but all the banks have been hurt because of this whole lending issue, right? Liquidity and the possibility of credit defaults. So, but they're going to probably rebound, and once they start rebounding, the economy's kind of turning around. And those guys, they're probably funded indirectly by narcos, so I don't see them losing the 2 billion that they lost already. The past 6 months, they're probably going to gain that shit back. I
right.
had a I had a lunch with them a while back when I was doing some consulting, and I don't see those guys losing their money. They'll get it back.
Well, the dollar is pretty stable.
Yeah, the
It's
dollar is stable because everyone else is doing the same thing. So, if anything, it'll stay pretty strong. And if everybody else is doing quantitative easing, then you don't really see the dollar depreciating too much.
hey man, I'm designing a very a very crazy project.
Well, yeah. Tell me about it. What do you want to talk about?
It's about sailing in a raft in the ocean. How does that sound?
That sounds awesome. When are you gonna do that?
Like
Like
going
like the
from Peru to
fishermen that go out. I don't know how far they go, like 100 miles to go fish and then come back to.
no, I'm talking like going to Australia, man. I'm talking like really long distance.
Okay,
Go and come back.
that
It's never
sounds.
been done. It's never been done before. It's been done 20 times one way, but nobody is gone and then come back.
So have they gone both ways, like one way that way and one way this way?
No, nobody has done that. But I like to do that. That
Why, hold on, why, so they've only gone from Peru to Australia? Or have they gone from Australia to Peru?
they've gone to from Peru to Mangareva, from Peru to Easter Island, from Peru to Australia, from Peru to Rayatoya, from Peru to 20 trips. But nobody has done the two-way trip. See what I'm saying?
Okay. How long does the trip take?
100 days.
Hmm.
It's a long trip.
Wow.
100 days to go and 100 days to come back.
Is there a jet stream where once you sail and get on that stream?
Yeah, yeah. There is a very strong um, flow circulation. Is the circulation of the whole Pacific Ocean.
Mhm.
Is the trade winds. The trade winds they go north and then east. Sorry, west, north and then west, and then on the way back you go south and then east, right?
Okay.
And it's like a circulation. It's a circulatory, and up the equator is the same, but the other way around. The other way around. It's like that. And I am writing an article now. Next week, hopefully, I'll send it to the Peruvian Navy magazine journal, and I am designing the project. It's called Balsa. Balsa, Balsa is Spanish for raft. Actually, it's an English name as well. Balsa is a name in English too for raft. I mean, you can see in the Merriam, right? Like it's made it into the English language, so it's balsa and raft. It's synonym.
Okay. Are you going to take a raft, or are you going to take something else?
The idea is to build an exact replica of the pre-Columbian Peruvian raft.
Okay.
Because we know pretty much for certain now that the Peruvian fleet of rafts made it to Australia and back. And basically, the Easter Island was a fucking colony of the Incas. That is basically emerging as a scientific fact pretty quickly, because they found everything they needed to find, right? They found the archaeology, they found the genes, they found the botanic evidence, they found everything, man. And so I like to do this social project. We're going to call the attention of people by doing the first Peruvian raft expedition, because the previous one have been gringos. There's been a couple of crazy Americans, lots of Norwegians, Australians, Spaniards, but never, even though it's a Peruvian thing, they've been trying to do scientific expeditions to prove that the Peruvians reached Polynesia. That's what the gringos did, but no Peruvian has done it, except for one guy, which is the exception that proves the rule. He did pretty good, actually. He reached the Polynesia quicker than Thor Heyerdahl. But now I would like to design the whole thing really good, and it's three routes that we want to make. One route is from Callao to Mexico. The second is to the Easter Island, and the third is to Polynesia. Those were the three routes, oceanic routes of the ancient Peruvians. And we want to do them and to create entrepreneurship for the coastal communities, because in Peru the fishing in rafts was big for thousands of years. Big, we're talking huge. But now it's dead, and I think we should revive it. See what I'm saying? So it's a social project. We're doing the raft trips just to call the attention of the world that Peruvians we're doing this. And what do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. And my question with the social awareness, you're trying to promote more Peruvians to go out and build rafts and go fish, or you're just trying to promote the history of that, and kind of just don't forget.
Well, trying to promote that instead of going out in those shitty ships without just really badly kept, and and they work with a motor, with oil, and so they contaminate the whole ocean. They cost money because the oil costs money, and so these people, we would like to give them the option of going out with rafts, but real rafts, so they can take a lot of load. One raft can take up to 20 tons. 20 tons. This is not a joke, man. It's real thing. But you have to make them well. They got big sails, two sails, and they are perfectly. You can steer them any way you want, with a different system than keel. It's a different system. It's all a wonderful thing. I've been researching it a lot.
Hmm.
It's very well documented. It's very well documented but all the sources are in Spanish, because the Spanish Empire, the Francisco Pizarro, these people, the chronicles they wrote in Spanish from the 16th century. So essentially, the English-speaking world does not know that. The English-speaking researchers, US, UK, they still troubled by the fact that the Peruvians got to the Polynesia, because they don't understand how could they sail to Polynesia. They don't understand that. And they don't understand that because they don't understand the Peruvian balsa. They think a balsa is drift sail. It's not drift sail. It is steer sail. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my focus is going to be scientific. I want to try an error and basically build the right balsa, the right replica, and do it in such a way that you can go at will anywhere you want. If I want to go to San Francisco, I go. If I want to go to New York, I go. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. This could be really interesting. My question to you is, how do you create, or do you have a following of people, of labor, that would be willing to create these rafts and create essentially a fisherman economy that is traditional rather than modern?
That's a good question. Uh,
Like, for
the
example,
answer is that
like we have, for what it's worth, it could be young, old, right? But do we have people, probably men, whatever, that aren't lazy and are willing to get out of the house and go do this and create a career out of it? And then when they come back, maybe they're just unloading at the local ports, and the ports are processing the fish, right? If it's really 20 tons, like you're saying, then really all they need to do is put in their work. It's going to be a lot of manual labor, but and that's essentially like working like Amish people. And Amish do quite well, by the way, by selling heaters and chairs and stuff like that, right? It's very traditional. So how do you create an Amish style mentality locally here? And I think you do have some trends now that would influence that. What do I mean by that? Well, there's this big push, for the whole ESG, right? Environmental, sustainable, and governance. And so everyone's going forward with, whether you want to use the excuse of climate change or whatever, but they want to get rid of, fossil fuels and go with renewable energy. Well, what better fuel than, human energy, right? And so you got that part that fits that theme, right? If you want to go with the thematic part of it. You also have the part where I was thinking about, which was really interesting, which is kind of going back to the traditional part, right, where you're fostering a culture and you're not forgetting about it, the balsa culture, right? And that's important. But also, if you think about it, like what better way, and I can see this happening through some inspirational part. And I'll use a quick analogy. I was watching some YouTubes where these guys are going in the woods and building their own cabins using free wood that was, from from wood that was thrown away because they're used as pallets or wood that whatever. But they go out and they build their own cabin for free. And there's this whole push where like nobody has any money, so they go buy a tiny house or they go build their own cabin. So what better way than to teach someone how to fish, right? Kind of goes back to like I'm going to teach you how to fish, and you'll eat like a king forever, rather than me give you fish. And so the theme is you teach them how to fish, which is build their own raft and go fish, and they'll never go hungry, right? And then they're teaching other people to fish, and then they've created this collective uh, where you're now creating a community of people to kind of live sustainably with the whole environmental, social, sustainability, governance. Oh, by the way, we're not forgetting where we came from with the balsa and the Incas, and we're doing these cool explorations that are being crowdfunded, and you're going.
Well, for example, I will give
It's
you, I will give you. Uh, See, the thing is this: uh, the Peruvian coastline from Lima to Guayaquil, from Lima to Guayaquil, um, it was a maritime power. It was a maritime power. These guys, they were the Chincha people, the Paita people in the north, the Tumbes people, the Manta people, the Puna people. Okay? 5 cultures, 5 nations. You have no idea how rich they were. The Incas conquered them militarily, but they were in turn conquered by them. I tell you one thing. Do you know Quechua, right?
Yeah.
Quechua? Do you know why Quechua was spoken by the Incas? It was not the language of the Incas. You know why?
Why?
Because that was the deal that the Incas made with the Chincha cacique. The Chincha cacique was the king of the whole Lima and Ica coast because he had a fleet of balsas that traded all over the place. He was so rich. And the Incas said, let's make an alliance. Otherwise, I have to beat the shit out of you. And the Chincha guy said, no need for that. Let's make an alliance, but I want to keep my privileges, my autonomy, and you guys are going to speak our language. So the lingua franca of the Tawantinsuyu was not Aymara, which was the Inca's tongue. It was Quechua. Quechua comes from here, from Lima. Not many people know that. What I'm trying to tell you is that there were super rich, capable, and knowledgeable maritime trading nations in this coast. And in the north of Peru, the tradition of the balsa is still alive, but it hasn't been transformed into a ecotouristic thing. Have you been to Puno? Titicaca Lake, have you been there?
Yes.
Have you seen all these embarkations? Have you gone to the Uro Islands?
Yes.
Okay, that's what. Yeah, these guys are doing there what they did for thousands of years, but now they do it for the touristic guy. See what I'm saying? It's the same thing in the north of Peru. It's just that they haven't gotten the business model yet. So I'm not going to create it. What we are going to try to do is to give motivation for them. But they have the knowledge, they have everything. If they see a Peruvian expedition go to Mexico, go to Easter Island, they're gonna get um, motivated. And I do not believe, Lanson, that fishing with the current artisan oil boats is better than fishing with a balsa. See what I'm saying? These are already there. There are communities already there. If we go to the north of Peru, maybe we should go. We should go for a trip to the north of Peru, and you're going to see they are still living in those communities, artisan fishing. And they are poor guys. They don't have a lot of money. See what I'm saying? They don't have a lot of money. They know how to fish because that's what they have been doing for 2,000 years. But they do not have good equipment. They don't have that. So if we show them what we do with their balsa, maybe they are gonna pick on it and save money. They're gonna do better fishing, and they can do ecotourism. We can help them do ecotourism. You know what I'm saying? Help them with the sites, with the organization, all that. But the idea is that you plan the balsa trips, you demonstrate the seaworthiness of this way of traveling, and if you do it from a Peruvian expedition, then maybe it gets to become grassroots, because all the foreign people that did it, they came, they did their trip, and they then went back to their countries. You see what I'm saying? They wrote a book, they put a documentary in YouTube, and that's it, because they were not from here. They could not stay here. But if we do it from here, we can do it such a way that it lasts. The whole of the pre-Columbian navigation world was fucking fascinating. You have no idea how many, the size of the trade that we had in Mexico and in Peru. In Mexico, they had canoes, very big canoes. In Peru, we had balsas, and we had junk ships made of straw, very strong straw. And there were literally very, very rich cities and cultures that all they did was trade. They had a coin. It was the spondylus. You know the spondylus? That was their money. They traded with spondylus. And you find spondylus all the way Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, all the way up to Mexico. So basically, that's the project, man.
It sounds really
That's the
interesting.
project.
So
Yeah.
create like charters from the coast and have people go fish.
Well, right now I'm focusing on planning the
Is
the
it,
trip.
is it actually using fishing poles or is it a big net?
How they fished?
Yeah, how are they catching the fish?
Both. They fish with nets, definitely, because they found the nets in Caral. You've been to Caral?
Is that in Callao?
No, no, Caral. Caral.
No, I haven't.
Well, that's the oldest civilization in the Americas. It's
Okay.
just 250 kilometers of Lima. It's very close to Lima. And they found it. They found pyramids, and they found their fishing utensils, and they found cotton nets.
Hmm.
So nets were definitely used, and also harpoons to catch the bigger fish. I mean, you have to realize that we've been living in the coast of Peru for 10,000 years, and
Right,
that's a very long time.
right. So I mean, I
Now,
feel like you have to think about like how are you going to create the economy that I get the ecotourism thing that maybe people will go out on these balsas for a day or so. How much will that generate to be sustainable? The other thing is with the fishing, how do you make it economical? Are you going to cater to where the way it's being fished is is quote like an organic theme to where you're not really um it's not as bad as the modern way and therefore the fish is treated better or something. I mean, how do you go about making it economical towards sustainable to where you can attract and incentivize people to actually build their own balsas and come out here and go fish? Like you need to be able to like what's going to create the incentive for people to do this. I believe in it. I think it's a great idea. I'm just trying to think about the economics and the sustainability of it and what's going to be the catalyst that will that'll lift it up and keep it going. I get the documentary thing, I get the charter thing, ecotourism thing, but like I don't see something that's like really sustainable and has good economics that's going to push out the dirty fisheries that are, and it may not just be Peru, it might be Chinese people, Chinese boats, when you get further out that are just, getting all the fish. I don't know.
well, the Chinese are depredating the whole sea, right? But the thing is, Peru has signed a convention with the United Nations a few years ago, and it has set a commitment that at least 10% of the tropical Peruvian territorial sea is going to be protected. It's going to be made a natural reserve. And obviously, that includes the north of Peru, because that's where the whales go. The whales go to Paita.
Well, then
And
that'd be nice for whale watching, right? On a balsa.
exactly. So the whole setting is already sort of well underway. The whole project is about creating an institutional network to support entrepreneurship of organic artisan fishing communities. That means these people are going to live in a protected sea. Uh, they're going to have incentives to keep it
Hmm.
clean. The balsas are their ancestors' ways. Um, they are cheap to make, they are cheap to maintain, and they don't cost anything to move because it's moved by the jet stream, by the winds.
Oh,
Um,
kind of cool where this is cool, right? Where if it really was ecotourism and you could do this and pull this off, I could see tourists coming down and you stay for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and you only eat what you catch.
Yeah,
You build,
exactly.
build,
Something like that.
build from scratch. It's like Survivor out of, and you're going back living like, the natives, right? And maybe you can take a balsa to go see whales, right? But you're essentially going back in time, and there's a community where you don't, like, you're unplugging, right? You're literally eating what you catch, and maybe you can go travel to, like, I don't know, the Galapagos Islands or something,
Yeah,
um, and be in
that's
touch with
now
nature.
exactly like they do now in the Titicaca Lake. They bring you in their ships, Totora ships. Same thing, but in the north. Same thing. Now, you tell me what the catalyst is going to be. I think the catalyst is two. One is the institutional catalyst because I tried to do the project with the Peruvian government institutions, with the regional government support. And so there's going to be um, a good grassroots institutional support uh, for the northern, especially fishing communities. So that's one.
Where's the northern? Where is this? Like Mankara, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, Mancora, exactly Mancora. Is that area? Is that area? See, which is already very touristic.
Yeah.
Mancora is very touristic. So you are adding to that. Uh, Secondly, let's not forget that the soul, the ancestral soul of this people culture is the balsa, and they have not seen one balsa, real Peruvian balsa, navigating with the sail. They make balsas now which are a piece of shit, no sail, with a sail, with the everything. They're beautiful balsas. They even said they had three types of balsas: one for fishing, one for fighting, and one for going out with their families, which were very nice, very well painted. It's amazing. Now, they haven't seen one balsa for 300 years now. 300 years. Can you imagine what's going to happen when they see us arrive in a balsa in Paita with the flag of the fucking Peru? Can you imagine? Imagine, 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 Lanson. You have seen a lot of cowboy movies, right? Imagine in the States. But imagine that there are no horses. You never see a live horse in your life, man. There are no horses anymore for 200 years in the United States. Can you imagine that? No
Okay.
horse, no hats, vaquero, cowboy hats, no hats. They disappear for 200 years. Imagine you build a project, you get, 100 cowboys with the Colts, with the guns, is exactly the same, and you go riding in the Fifth Avenue in New York. Can you imagine the emotion of the people?
So you're saying
They will
the people have grown up knowing about balsas, but they've never.
exactly. It's in their souls. It's in their skin. It's in the brains. They lived with balsas. That's all they did for 2,000 years until the fucking Spaniards came and
Uh-huh.
they said, no more balsas. You know why they didn't want balsas, the Spaniards? You know why? I can tell you why. Because the balseros, Peruvian balseros, made um, How do you call when you trade illegal trade? They dominated the illegal trade with balsa. It's like today, exactly the same. Informal economy. So the balsa was the tool of the Peruvian defeated people. And they made a lot of trade which was illegal because the Spanish made it illegal. That's why they didn't like the balsas to be built. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what happened, man. And I have the documents here. Here, I have documents here. I have the books, the studies where they show all the ordenanzas by the viceroy, how they fought against the illegal trade, okay, and how much they sank the balsas. They didn't like balsas. So they didn't abandon their balsas, these people, because they wanted. They abandoned their balsas because otherwise they would be killed. And that's why today they go out to fish with these stupid boats, which are like, you see them, you want to cry. They look so dismantled. And they have a little motor, and they put kerosene, they put oil. And they are so bad, the ships, that they lose oil. So they leave a long sort of tail of oil on its wake. And it's so bad for the ocean, so bad for their pockets. So I suppose they must be dying to get back in their balsas for 200 years. So when we get there with a big balsa, with the flag of Paita, the flag of Peru, they see all these guys, they've made it from the south as their ancestors did. We go there, and all the thing that we want to do is establish a competition. Because from Paita we go to Tumbes, from Tumbes we go to Guayaquil. And we challenge the Guayaquil Manteños. Because the Guayaquil people, they were even bigger in balsas than Peruvians. See what I'm saying? They were even bigger. The Colombian Balsa Building Center was in Manta, Ecuador, and in the Puna Island. They even have a festival, Balsa Festival, every year, still in Ecuador. So we go to Ecuador and we challenge them. We tell them, we're going to make a race. Every fucking year, we're going to have a Peruvian boat, balsa, and a Ecuadorian balsa. And we're going to race all the way down to Lima. And if you win, you have a big prize. And then from Lima, a second race all the way up to Manta. See what I'm saying? Or something like that.
I mean, it
Some
seems,
yeah.
I like, I think that it's a noble cause. I think overall it's pretty interesting. It's interesting. I see how excited you are about it, and if no one's doing it, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's to me. I feel like if I was to score it, it's interesting. I'd probably give it like a 1 out of 10. I'd probably, because I'm thinking about the economics part of it. The economics are like a 5, and the cause, like the motivational part of it with respect to the history, is like a probably like an 8.5, or maybe even a 9. So it evens out to like a 7 or something. So that's kind of my take on it. I think it's pretty cool though. At the end of the day,
We have to improve the economics then.
I think you do. I can't think of anything that makes the economics work too much, you know? Like I get the fact that there's whales, I get the fact that it's Ecuador. The biggest thing is like what would make me more interested with the economics part is if people could just do it because they want to do it, right? You have to motivate them. And I get it. Like, okay, it's a balsa. They can get fish. They can go fish with it. So if they do all that, then you're going to attract a bunch of people doing it, and like it's a flywheel. It just goes off and creates a life of its own. I don't see that happening right now. If it does that, that creates economics, meaning that people are going to overcome the fact that they have to put in a bunch of work and create and have to put in a bunch of labor, but there's so many more positive externalities that come out of it. I don't see that right now, but maybe that would happen, right?
But you have
How
been
do you motivate
Titicaca Lake,
the next generation of Peruvians to take
but
on this and get rid of
lis-
the tugboats that you're talking about?
listen, you have been to the Titicaca Lake, right?
Yeah.
Did you go to the Uros Island?
No, we went to like one of the first islands. We did see one of the, I don't know if that was the balsa, but it was made out of straw. It was a boat.
But
And
you didn't go to this artificial island, which is a floating island made of straw.
I did. Yeah, I did.
You went
I,
there.
I was there. I met, they were speaking Maida, right?
Yeah.
And a family that was living on that, and they had to put down straw like every 5 days to keep it afloat. And they had a boat made out of straw as well. But we showed up on a diesel powered boat, So, and that was fine, to be honest. So I don't see in Lake Titicaca that even working. I think people will want to, they don't have time to wait for the sail to catch wind. It's going to be slow. So the big thing is, how do you make this move quick? Having a motor creates, it's much more efficient. You get there quicker. I was thinking about when you were talking, I was like, the most perfect place to do this. And I was thinking about those same boats is in Paracas. There's a bunch of those boats that are sitting there that are polluting Paracas in the port there. You've been there. And if they had balsas to go show people the sea lions and to be out in the Humboldt Channel and all that natural wildlife is beautiful, right? You would love to see that. That's not going to happen. You know why? Because when I get there off of Peru Hop or whatever, I'm there. I show up at 11 a.m. and I only have like a window of 3 or 4 hours. There's no way I can take a balsa and go, I think it's 10 miles, maybe 5 to 10 miles to get to that island and then see all the guano and birds and all that good stuff. A balsa would be perfect for that, but it's not fast. So there's no way people will hop in a balsa and waste a whole day to get there. It just won't happen. It's the right noble thing to do, but the economics don't make any sense.
But why do you say that if you have been to the Uros Island?
I've been to I would take a balsa, but it's slow. So no one's going to take a balsa because it's not fast. They're going to hop in one of those boats that have like 2 propellers on it or 2 engines on it, and they're going to haul ass and plane up and get to the island within, even that trip still like 20 minutes. And then they're gonna go around the island on that boat that carries like 20 people rather than carrying on a boat.
Look, have you ever been to a sailing boat?
I have. It's slow.
Yeah, it's the same thing. But let's see, if you
I don't
go,
know if it's fast, if it's like a catamaran, like a sailboat. A catamaran still has a motor. It's got to be fast.
You can put a motor in a balsa too.
I know, now you got rid of the whole
no, but That's what you're telling me. A
Yeah,
catamaran or a
it's
sailing
got
boat,
yeah. So
they
if
got
it was if it,
they got a motor, because
yeah,
that's the way they go to the harbor and they go out, unless they want to tow them or to go with oars. But
yeah.
the point is, I mean, do you have any idea how many sailing boats there are in the world? There are a lot of sailing boats, lots. A sailing boat and a balsa are just interchangeable. See what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
mean, you are comparing uh, a balsa with a motorboat because it's
Yes, I
fast.
am. I am.
But you should compare a balsa with a sailing boat.
I
That's what
know.
you.
I compared it.
So
I compared it on purpose because what I'm saying is that a place like Paracas, because of the time crunch that people have, the balsa you want it to work, but it won't work because it's a sailboat, and that's going to be like an all day thing.
but listen. The For example, I give you an example. We did something similar, but in a different dimension in the Ausangate Mountain Lodge. You know about that, right?
Yeah, I
This is the
remember.
thing. Yeah, this is the thing that we did with the community of Chilca, and so basically, this is a 5 day hike, 5 day, 4 day, 4 nights, and they sleep in 4 lodges. And the community takes them for this hike, and it's an incredibly demanding hike. Is for specialists, really. A lot of US people come to do that, but they are specialist people. They could be somebody like you. I mean, you are a sportman, you like challenges, but maybe it's not for your wife. Maybe your wife would say, forget about it, because I'm not interested in spending 5 days in the middle of nowhere looking at, vicuñas and the sky. That's it. I want to do one day. If you want to do one day, you go to Machu Picchu. You go to Machu Picchu, you see Machu Picchu in one day, and you go back. So this is not about replacing what there is already. The Paracas circuit, it exists. We don't want to have anything to do with that. But imagine that 2 or 3 of those tour operations, they start to work with balsas, but they will do different things. They will have to do different things. It's different services. You are not competing, you're complementing what there is already. If you have only 2 3 hours, you only have time for the motorboat,
That's right.
and this. But let's say that there are 1 million tourists like you, but there are 10,000 tourists, 10,000, which are specialist tourists. These guys, they want quality, they got time to spend, they got COVID, so they know that they have to take a good life, not just a fast life. That's the tourist that we want, like the Andean lodges. So this guy comes and he makes a balsa trip, and he takes 1 week in a balsa, or maybe 10 days, or maybe 3 days, and he does the whole experience, right? And he stays in the hotels in the coast. The people are dressing like Indians. The whole show, like in the Titicaca Lake. Like in the Titicaca Lake, you arrive with the boat, you're right. But they will arrive to the balsa in boats as well. The balsa would not be in the shore, because otherwise you have to take it with oars. Maybe they have to go with a boat to the balsa as well. So we're not trying to see what I'm saying. We're not
Yeah.
trying to we're trying to add something on top that helps you with differentiation. Because today Today, what is it that if you are an American tourist, right? You are in the US, and I tell you, hey, you can visit islands, guano islands, islands with very strange birds, with very strange animals. And you can go to Paracas in Peru, or you can go to Galapagos in Ecuador. Which one you choose?
I don't know. I'd probably go to Galapagos because I haven't been there, but that's just me.
Galapagos is much better. Galapagos is much better. It has bigger, it's more protected, more animals. So, but if you had this whole balsa show in Paracas, in Tumbes, in Mancora, then you have got some differentiation. See what I'm saying? There is a there's more of a reason to compete against Galapagos, because Galapagos they don't have balsas. They got modern catamarans and shit like that. But see what I'm saying? That would be the idea to develop. But you are right. We're still at the beginning of this idea.
I think it's a great idea. I like the Paracas idea, to kind of take a little bit more relaxed approach with it. Maybe even visit the shit island, or whatever. Uh, and and also the whale watching, right? And if maybe you're on some type of charter where you can do some like old school like what do you call it? Old school. Um, what's the book? Moby Dick style, where you're gonna go fish.
Yeah, it's a
Kind of
different
cool.
experience.
That'd be cool
You,
too. And
you know,
essentially, you
the
could do ecotourism like that.
yeah, the Vikings they still building their drakkers. You
And
know
I
the
see
drakker,
the
the Viking
balsa.
ship.
I see the balsa being cool in Lima too, because if you go catch your own fish, you can come back and make some awesome ceviche. Some flounder or something, right?
It's, you
So
go, you put that.
make it nice to have that.
Exactly. So it's not for everybody. This thing is not for everybody. It's not for every community. But I can see three, four key places where this thing could catch up, because
I
it's
would do
not
it in,
about
it'd be cool to
it's
do it in the
about
Amazon. What does the Amazon have balsas? They have something different.
a very good question. The Amazon, they had canoes, they had rafts, but made of bamboo kind of thing, and they had totora ships. They had all kinds of things in the Amazon, because the Amazon has abundance of materials.
Yeah.
So you can do what you want basically.
Dude, I would do that in the Amazon, but I think it'd be cool to do some ayahuasca trips where you go to like one shaman to another shaman and take one of those rafts. I would be all about that.
Well, in the northern Peru, you had the San Pedro.
And you do it like, and I bet you that's a big following. Like what's happening right now is everyone's doing ayahuasca, right? So you're gonna take all these boats there. But if you did it more like mellow, where you did it more traditional, I think that'd be cool.
You just gave me a great idea, man. Because if we combine the balsa thing with some hallucinogenal culture, that would be great. Because
Yeah,
the,
because you're already
the
on the boat, you know?
yeah,
And
the
so
balsa
the experience is pretty awesome where you're on a boat. Have you ever taken mushrooms before?
San Pedro I've taken.
So you know how have you had a good trip taking mushrooms?
Well, San Pedro is not like the mushrooms. The mushrooms, if we're thinking about the same thing, the mushrooms a lighter experience. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel talkative. It takes good things. It's like saying endorphin trip type of
Give me
thing.
1 second. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get a refill.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, Pelican. How's your dog, bro?
Oh, it's doing great. What about yours?
Amazing. You're the best.
My dog is very strong.
I
He
bet.
he needs a lady now. He needs a lady now. I think he's getting a little bit restless.
That's why I cut their balls off.
Nah, I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that.
Castrate those fuckers. So they
What?
don't mess around. That's where you show them who's boss and you cut their balls off, and they're the most docile creatures ever now. Uh, so I want this is a good segue because this is where I think the economics might be really great if you could pull it up. First of all, I was doing some research as well, and it says, and I need your help in this, obviously, but mushrooms, psilocybin specifically, like magic mushrooms, and ayahuasca are legal. Like, there's no problem. It's like in Peru and Brazil. Is that correct?
Uh, in Peru, is definitely legal. I haven't heard anything against ayahuasca really.
What about
Uh,
psilocybin, magic
what?
mushroom?
What is
Psilocybin, which are mushrooms, specific mushrooms that make you hallucinate.
same thing? There has not been any. Remember that all the all the all the legislation that makes illegal the cocaine, the marijuana, is international legislation. There has never been any such legislation coming out of Peru or any South American country against the use of any of these substances. It's come from the Dutch, the Americans, the British, basically. Those three nations, they started the crusade against, for example, cocaine. Cocaine was made illegal the first time in 1895 by the Dutch. And those sons of bitches, what they did next was to plant cocaine, coca leaves in Java, and then they dominated the world trade of cocaine, they dominated it. It's true, it's historical. And the Americans followed suit after that. Um, so in Peru, there must be about 400 hallucinogenic plants. Not one of them has been declared unilaterally by the Peruvian government ever uh, forbidden. Eh, to do trips with plants, hallucinogenic plants, it's so in deep with the Peruvian culture that some anthropologists, certainly from the US, have suggested that the whole idea of the Peruvian civilization has to be found in this preference for hallucinogenic drugs. That the consumption of the hallucinogenic plants and the start of the Andean civilization have a very cause effect correlation. Well, I don't know if that's true, but certainly we have some plants here that make you observe things more clearly, right?
Yeah.
And it is
So
when you see things clearly that you start figuring out, mathematics, science, and all that shit.
yeah.
Um, so I think those guys got a point, basically, and you should not. But today, this whole thing about mushrooms and stuff, it carries a negative connotation. It's like you're a junkie, you're a piece of shit, basically, if you do that thing. And that is a problem with the Western civilization because it makes you go underground in able to be able to do it. So it's a lot of hypocrisy and cynicism that builds into and guilt feelings on the consumption side. Well, in Peru, you don't get guilt feelings to do this
Hmm.
unless you come from Lima and you come from a family of very, how can you say, conservative traditional values, like it was my case, for example. I could not come back to my home and say, "Hey, Dad, I had a trip with magic mushrooms." He would beat the shit out of me, basically.
Hmm.
Like your dad as well, maybe, perhaps, it's the same thing. But if you go to the Andes, these people is built into the culture. You know, I mean, what's the difference between taking a magic mushroom and drinking coffee? It's a cultural difference. It's
Correct.
not a real difference because in both cases you are stimulating, substances like caffeine and.
Yeah.
Um, so I read your stuff and I can see that you got. It doesn't surprise me, because sooner or later, if you live in Peru, especially if you're an expat, you are going to feel, you are bound to feel the lure of this whole culture, man.
Yeah.
It's
So I'm here. I completely agree. And I want to know if you're interested in that to go explore with me. And maybe we can combine your idea, your project, which, by the way, I think is a great idea. I think it's maybe a few steps down, but I think it can. I think my idea and your idea can dovetail eventually at the right time. Uh,
now you are interested particularly in ayahuasca, right?
I'm interested in essentially things that are taboo outside of Peru, and that, but I'm not doing it for the recreational part. I think that's great, but I'm old now. I've done mushrooms, I've done cannabis, but but I've had really great experiences doing that. I really have, and now that I'm older, I'm more into the science part of it, and I actually feel that the world's changing, and these taboos and negative stereotypes you're talking about, I don't think are going to exist 5, 10 years from now. I don't. And I think that I could be, I'm not trying to be arrogant right now, but just trying to create an analogy. I want to be like the Hiram Bingham for today's culture and explore Peru and showcase the real high qualities of what the country has to offer while I live here. And I because I'm Hiram Bingham was an outsider. He went to Machu Picchu, whatever, discovered that. What I'm trying to say is I'm an outsider. I get it. Look at me. I got a flag behind me, but I live here and I'm assimilating here, right? And so therefore I want to respect the culture, but I also want to do things that interest me that I enjoy. And I don't know what's cooler than going to the Amazon or the Sierra or wherever and experiencing local medicinal properties that exist and then sharing that with everyone else. And I actually feel that if I create the right team around me, that this could be very economical, not in terms of like a pharma thing, but in terms of an ecotourism thing, in terms of a rehabilitation thing, in terms of a mental health thing, in terms of maybe a scientific exploration thing. Um, I see that existing and happening. And my biggest my biggest driver is is the science part of it. It's so taboo in the world in the states that the right work is not being done. So I don't mind going and getting the data and doing that work with local smart people, right? And sharing that with the right community to create more awareness, but also maybe to create some type of solution for neurological degenerative issues and diseases.
I
It's
got a,
and that to
I got a,
me not only does it help cure that, maybe not cure it, but maybe arrest, slow it down, or help open up new neural pathways because mycelium creates new channels, or it allows you to, while you're fucking decaying in your brain, it allows you to keep your mind open and think, maybe open up this side of your brain or whatever, right? As we get old, we actually think much. We as a kid, we're so creative, right? Your kids are running around and fucking saying whatever because their brains are like this. As we get older, we get more pattern recognition. It's like a super optimized machine learning algorithm. All of a sudden, we look at these patterns, and our brain goes to this, and then before you know it, we start building proteins in our brain and losing neurons, and then before you know it, it just falls apart and it goes to a walnut. Well, if I were to take maybe some of these properties like mushrooms that have neurological pathways or neurological catalysts, as well as maybe ayahuasca, you start re-triggering and re-hitting these synapses that might open up the brain more and create more longevity somehow, or at least give you an experience or tap in your subconscious that you haven't really thought about, right? Because you just haven't, you've been so contracted for so long.
have
And
you have
I think
have
it'd be
you
a
done
fantastic experience.
have you done ayahuasca?
No, I actually planned on doing it in August, but it got shut down because of COVID. So I have a trip
Uh,
scheduled next August, but I'm definitely game to go do it before or after then too, and do multiple trips.
I uh, I got a friend, and probably you should meet him because with the Balsa project, I think that's basically a coastal project. The navigational capabilities of the ancient Peruvian people were twofold. There was a lot of navigation in the open sea, but there was probably even more in the rivers. So there's definitely that side of it. Uh, the Balsa project is more for the ocean, the outside ocean. That's not to be said that there was no, navigation in the rivers, because there was more in the rivers than in the ocean seas. Now, the the guy I'm talking about, his name is Manu Sai. He's the real thing, the real McCoy. Basically, he's got a big place in the in the jungle, and I have been there, and I have taken ayahuasca there 2 or 3 years ago. It's a fantastic place. He's half American, half Peruvian, basically. He's a very interesting guy. Manu Sai, he was born in Peru, grew up in Mexico, then he went for detox in India because he became drug addict. He detoxed in India, and in India he got illumination. This illumination, he became a saint type of guy, and he has a very strong connection to India, to Peru too, and he has a Russian wife who looks like a top model. So the guy is a very interesting guy, and so he's into this. Um, he made a company for the cannabis thing. He's into researching the substances, natural substances. And he introduced me to this ayahuasquero called Cesar, who's the guy who he works with, whom I can recommend to you because he's a real ayahuasquero. In short, I think you should meet him and see if you guys click, because if you do, I think he's your man, much more than me. I mean, I would love to go with you, accompany you on 2 3 trips, when this COVID shit goes down, just because I love to do these excursions. But sounds to me that you got more like a plan to do something with goals and all that. And so I think that this, if you are more interested in the Amazon, I think he will be a pretty good guy. Um, he's kind of he does stuff with Cesar does the stuff with the ayahuasca, but Manusai is more into San Pedro. Manusai is a San Pedro guy, and I've done San Pedro too, but not with him. San Pedro is from the coast. It's called Achuma. Achuma is the ancient name. It's a fungus. It's made of a fungus, like the similar to the peyote, the Mexican peyote. But it's a completely different thing. The ayahuasca is more spectacular. It's more spectacular in the sense of the kind of trip that you get. But San Pedro to me was kind of heavy. It doesn't go to your brain. It goes to your heart,
Mm.
and it really you know gets your shit back together, but from the emotional standpoint. Whereas to me, ayahuasca is more cognition. You visualize shit, you perceive things, you observe things, and whereas achuma is more emotional, so it gets you to cry maybe inside, sometimes outside too, um, because maybe your heart is severed, is kind of broken, and so it put the pieces back together, but then it makes you sad. Maybe it makes you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, I have never tried the magic mushrooms, but I know that some people who are big into that, you know, they they describe them as the people who have taken the achuma, the ayahuasca, and the magic mushrooms. They tend to describe the magic mushrooms like a lighter thing, like more like a, it's not like the main dish. It will be more like the appetizer type of thing. See what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I would say what the way I can describe them is it's very sensory, where your senses like lighten up. So I guess yeah, I would agree that it's definitely a lighter experience. But when I say lighter, it's more of like your head just lightens up, and everything is much, your sensories just blow up. Like the boat ride sounds cool because I remember when I was on shrooms, I was like skating in a rain in like it was raining, but it was already raining, but I could hear like the water like like really detailed, right? And
right,
I could imagine being like in a canoe in the Amazon or being in the water in the ocean. And you don't, that's what's cool about these rafts, right? Or these balsas, is that you're not moving, and so you can take this and experience Mother Nature real time,
yeah.
and just
Uh,
be chill.
it's just
If
like
if I saw whales with that, dude, that'd be a fantastic experience. Like, because everything is like, it just blows up. I remember being at a petting zoo and I was hanging out with billy goats. Like they look like my dog, and I was, and you're tripping out with them. It was fantastic. It was really cool. So being out in the ocean and maybe seeing wildlife, or you just seeing different things, you seeing the clouds. I mean, you start opening up and maybe thinking about different things as well. But it's very sensory driven, and that's a good experience when you're in nature.
yeah. Well, I think it's a good plan that you've got. But I think
It's not so much
if
of a plan, but it's a more of a goals that I want to accomplish to explore. But I think it could be something more meaningful in terms of economics if you start connecting with the right people to put together more of a project. And so I want you to be open to that, because I think it'd be cool to like document that too, right? And share that with the world, if you will, and
yeah,
do it more in a local native sense, where what you have is a bunch of people coming here, putting their YouTube up, and then leaving, right? And that's dumb. Why not experience it with people that actually live here, that can see it the day to
the,
day, hear from a local.
the, these projects, like I'm talking about the Balsa project. Now now I think you realize what really is about, because it's not really about, hey, I take a trip in Balsa, I go around an island and I see it's not about that. It's about you revive in certain strategic places where that can be done, the whole culture, the whole maritime.
This will here. I want to add something, because you struck something, of course. I would be more motivated, Piero, if you were to find local artisans, which I know you've been researching the project, right? Um, that we could go collectively and take a couple weeks or a week or whatever it is, and do it from scratch, you know, and build it and then go fish, and if we had some San Pedro or whatever, we'll take that too. But like we do the experience together from scratch, right? And then you partake in more the native tradition of doing that. That to me is pretty fantastic, right?
Yeah,
Just
I think,
Like I would
think
want to go build a raft in the Amazon and go live with the natives in the Amazon, like Survivor. I would do that. I think that I would pay to do that. You know,
yeah, that would be an
taking
incredible experience.
too with the shaman.
And
Like I want to do that, and forget about the economics part of it. That's fantastic, you know. But you do it to where you're not exploiting them. You're doing to where you guys are. I'm sharing my knowledge. They're sharing their knowledge, and we're 2 + 2 = 3, right? Or
right.
5. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I'm.
it's um,
Say hi. Say hi. That's beautiful.
¿Quién? ¿Quién? No te
hola,
reconozco.
¿has visto el cambio de look?
Estás más guapo, más interesante.
Bueno, gracias. Oye, se ven espectacular cosa.
¿Qué va a ser?
Les ha hecho bien la cuarentena.
Sí, no digas
¿Cómo,
el COVID, cuarentena.
cómo va
Sí.
tu,
Qué bueno.
cómo va tu trabajo con Boston Scientific?
Bien, bien, bien. Todo retrasado casi 8 meses, pero bien. Mira, Pierre, al final, o sea, todos nuestros colaboradores están con bien, nadie está enfermo, tenemos, todo está bien. Solamente retrasados 1 año. Pero bien.
Excelente.
Qué bueno
We're
verte.
talking about going and living with the natives and building rafts that go out in the ocean as well as in the Amazon, and then taking ayahuasca
Are you
and
drinking again?
peyote, and you know, and experiencing more shamanic type things. So I'll be gone for a couple weeks. to
Okay,
go
just let me know
experience
if you have an extra seat for me this time. Take care.
Chao.
Vengan, boys.
that. Anyways,
Boys, ven.
so yeah. Anyway, I think connecting with locals and experiencing that, and then seeing what can create like an ecotourism thing. That's the right thing. I mean, what's been hurt because of COVID is ecotourism, right? But I'm also very big on the medicinal thing, because I think honestly COVID has affected a lot of people's mental health. So if anything, they need this even more. Like a good experience, a good trip to kind of reset, reprogram.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. So I do not believe um, that I believe this will be a product for special type of people who have more time to spend, and as you're saying, who want to reset. It's not about take a balsa and see the shit islands. That's not what about. It's about you come to this place. It's like go. Imagine you now go to Mancora to surf, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you go to Mancora to take a look at the square of Mancora, the main square. No, you go to Mancora to surf. So what does that mean? That you go there, maybe you have your surfboard, you rent one, you take your beer, then you go surf in the morning, then in the afternoon you go out, maybe you pick up a girl, maybe you go dancing, then the next day you are drunk, then you smoke some pot, then you go surfing again. See what I'm saying? So you're living the culture of the surf life in Mancora.
Okay. Yeah.
You can do that in California too, which is a different experience, or to Australia, it's a different experience. And Mancora is a specific experience, and you eat ceviche, and that's it. It's the same thing. Imagine a caleta where you have that type of life, but around balsas.
think
go
I
there,
think
have
I
your
think
drink, you smoke your stuff, you take your San Pedro, nice girls, nice guys, nice food. You got a lodge, maybe many lodges, many bars. Then you go out with the balsa. Maybe you don't even go out with the balsa. I mean, the guy comes back with the balsa with the fish. You eat the fish. Maybe you go out in the balsa one night and you take San Pedro and you look at the sky in the night. You get some trip. The next day you don't know what it was, where you were, but it just felt fantastic. That's what I have in mind. See what I'm saying? You create a place where that culture, that magic happens. And those guys somehow they get their balsas, but maybe they get many more things too, not just balsas. Because as I tell you, it was a culture. It was a whole culture of around the sea, around the fishing, the interaction with the sea, and that's what we would like to recreate.
it's like you can market it like this with this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Good way. Yeah,
I can see Ernest Hemingway having smoking a pipe like that, or having some San Pedro and going out on the balsa and catching
exactly.
fish. That's the fucking thing. That's exactly the way I'd market it. Is just like this.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And you got to have the San Pedro and the ayahuasca and the magic mushrooms. Like here, you could do this. You could do a trip for the coast with San Pedro because it's coastal, right? You do a trip with the Amazon with ayahuasca, and then you do a trip with like the Sierra and the Andes with mushrooms, and you're with alpacas because
Yeah,
alpacas. I think that'd be fantastic to trip out with alpacas. Be on like a walk with alpacas, like that would be badass.
yeah,
Be at a lodge and tripping out with mushrooms and alpacas. Like I'm telling you right now, that would sell. You'd make a bunch of money just doing that. But you have to have the medicinals there. That's what's going to attract gringos to come. And then in addition to that, what's going to be even cooler is that you do it more with the traditional sense, where they feel like they're with natives,
yeah,
that have been around for thousands of years doing this. I mean, that's even cooler because not only you're doing more of like a caveman setting, right? Going back to the roots. They're experiencing the medicinal stuff that they took. At the same time, it's a caveman setting. I mean, I don't know what's more manly than that. I think it'd sell out like all the time. Believe me, I was signing up for the ayahuasca stuff. First of all, it was hard to find. Second, they were selling out and they required a minimum of a week stay. You could do the same thing. Require a minimum of a week stay, maximum 3 weeks, and they book it 6 months in advance.
yeah. I think
No brainer.
personally, I think that in the post-COVID world, um, I mean,
In
for
the post-COVID world, uh, they're gonna need this.
exactly, and it's gonna be more a matter of quality than quantity.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've learned in this COVID thing to live with less and have a better life with less things, less consumption, less money. Um, I think it's the same thing with what's going to happen after all this shit is gone. is that people, are going to be looking for more meaningful things. And as you say, minimum stay. If you are not the kind of guy who can manage to have 5 days to spare for himself, or maybe a week, then you may as well not come, go somewhere else, because you know you get yourself surrounded with tourists that want to see the whole of Peru in 2 days, Brazil in 3 days, Argentina in 4 days. That's crazy, man.
Well, see, the reason why this ayahuasca place, um, they did that because they said that they had multiple ceremonies, right? But it's smart because it weeds out the people that are just trying to show up or whatever, right? You know what's even cooler about this is that they didn't charge you anything. What you did is you paid a donation. But think about this: the donation, when you look at the market of what ayahuasca uh, was charging, the minimum that I was seeing when you're actually having to see a price was around $1,000 US, maybe even $1,500 for a week. That you can go a lot, you can go very far on that, right? As you know, with respect to the economics. So I was already thinking in my head, well, I think I'll give these guys like minimum 500, maybe $750 for myself, right? So just because they say donation doesn't mean that people are going to stiff them. Does that make sense? Most people will go in there because they're already putting off a week, and when they get what they want out of it, like with San Pedro or whatever it is, they're gonna say this is worth it, because you just said it, quality, right? It's about the experience, and people will give you, they'll pay what the value is. The people that stiff you or don't pay you what your value is, that's going to be like 5% of your clients, right? That'll be a small portion, and most of those people won't come back, and those people won't refer somebody. So what's going to happen through word of mouth is that you'll get people that'll pay the fair market value, which probably might be $1,000, let's just say, right? Maybe 1,500 minimum, and in terms of a range. And then what will happen is if they have a great experience, what are they going to do? What's the best word of mouth? What's the best marketing? Word of mouth, right? Then what's going to happen is that they're going to tell their friends, and their friends are going to say, well, how much did you pay? How much did you donate? I donated $750. Oh, okay, I'll donate too. So before you know it, you're going to create, the market's going to create the value for that. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it's a smart way to market where you don't have to put a price on it. The market will you'll end up putting out the price. Like, if anything, people will pay you more. They'll say, well, here's a donation, and by the way, Piero, you're such a great host. Here's another $1,000 or whatever. Or here's if you're ever in the Cayman Islands, come see me and stay at my place for a week or something. I don't know. You're gonna get those kind of people, right? And so just know that kind of business, ecotourism, if you do it right, have legs forever. It'll be like the new Airbnb, where people are booking, months in advance, and you'll pretty much have your economics figured out for the year. So I'm actually really interested in that, both on the scientific level, because I actually feel these medicinal, like, I want to explore what is really out there. I want to find out what mushroom exists that can maybe help with the neurological features of the brain, and maybe trigger growth, and regrow different, maybe help trigger new synapses in the brain, especially for degenerative diseases.
Well, there's a very broad, very large literature on that.
Yeah, and also about it is, like, you could study your clients if they opt in. You can now help share that data with these people that are published in universities or whatever, right? So I don't think there's much there's many tests out there yet. So you could get funding for that too, by the way, I'm sure.
What's that?
You could get funding for that, like because of the environment, the fact that it's legal here, you can host these controlled experiments, if you will, right? And maybe get funding that way too, in addition to the typical ecotourism, where all you're doing is collecting data on how it's going, or maybe asking a series of questions, whether it's an exit interview or something like that, and then sharing that, right? And then maybe publishing that in an article or a paper later on. Those are the kind of things that can happen out of this type of business model, if you will.
It's interesting, man. I think you should do it.
You think I should do it?
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
me. It's an I or you.
well, it's a time thing. It's a timing thing.
Yeah. I'm not saying do it tomorrow. I'm just saying, think about it and maybe stage it at the right time. I mean, as of right now, we should go explore at the right time, and learn, right? And see if it is beneficial. And then if it is, maybe try to build out the infrastructure or the system to maybe see if it'll work, sustainably with the right team or people that could actually really work it.
Well, it's a long-term thing, right? It's not something that you are going to do in 1 month or 1 year. If you really got passion, that's going to a number of years. You know what I'm saying? Well, I got this thing about the Balsa project, and I really like.
How serious are you with that? Like, yeah, I mean, tell me more about where you at and what makes you interested in it so much, Like, what has motivated you?
Well, it's just the passion, I suppose. Just the idea of going out in a balsa, across the whole Pacific, the whole ocean, man.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
I think that'd be pretty cool. And
I'd say thinking about sailing, by the way, though. I wouldn't be a captain. I'd be a first mate or whatever.
I don't know sailing much of it. Last time I did sailing, I was in Europe and I took some classes. I was pretty good at that. I survived a big storm.
Okay.
A big storm, which I think was very lucky, to have survived that fucking storm. Have you seen the movie The Perfect Storm? Have you seen it?
You're in that same storm.
Have you seen the movie?
I've seen the movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. When you're in a big fucking storm, it's exactly like the movie. I mean,
Imagine a balsa.
it's very scary. It's very scary, and for some reason, maybe some electrical shit, or maybe you are so scared that you start hallucinating. But when you are in the high seas in a big fucking storm, it's like the whole boat is permanently surrounded by some halo of light. Some fucking halo of light, man. It's like you can see the boat, you can see a little bit of the sea, like there was a light. And I never ever thought about it much because I was so scared at the time. But when I saw the movie, then I got reminded in my brain, and I'm asking still to myself, why is it that you see the halo? Why? I don't understand, but you do see a halo, and you see the sea when it moves to form a wave, a giant wave. Is so scary that you are crying like a baby, and you are praying. You find yourself praying like a wimp. Uh, Hail Marys.
I think the trip to Easter Island would be pretty mellow, right? With the Humboldt current, that should be
What
pretty
the
mellow.
way the way you can get there from Callao to Easter Island, but then on the way back, I understand you have to take a more meridional current, which is gets you to Valparaiso, someplace in Chile. So you get out of Callao, but on the way back, you are like maybe 2,000 miles south, and from there you need to sail back up to Callao again. So it's a long fucking trip.
Do you know anybody right now that has a Bolsa to where we can go do a boat ride with some San Pedro and experience that just to see if we
No,
enjoy it?
we have to build it.
Okay.
We have to build it. There's no way around. Nobody has a balsa. You have to build it. Now the good news is that you can build a balsa in 30 days. It's not a big deal to build a balsa if you are in Peru. They know how to build it. They never forgot it. That's the funny thing. They don't even realize that. So we're gonna build the balsa in the shipyards of the Marina de Guerra del Callao in Callao. They build every single balsa that has crossed the ocean for the past 60 years has been built in the shipyards of Callao. The gringos haven't built a shit.
Do you
They get,
do you know the actual person that would make it? You
yeah,
know,
they are there. They are there. They know how to do it, and you always find Peruvian guys who can make a balsa because it's in the blood. See what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, you go to America. I mean, anybody can teach you how to shoot, right? I mean, you know how to shoot. I never shoot in my life, but you know how to shoot. You know how to sort of um, put together a weapon and dismantle and put it together again. I don't know that. Things are in your culture. Things are in, I mean, Chinese culture, Italian culture. It doesn't worry me too much. It should probably, but it doesn't. The whole thing about the Balsa project is to build an institutional network. You need people to bring the logs. You need uh, you need to have an institution that connects with every single place you're gonna stop. Like, for example, if we go to Mexico, first trip, you need to call in the Peruvian ports, Paita, Máncora, Tumbes. That's easy. But then you go to Ecuador. So somebody has to contact the Navy in Ecuador. So they are waiting for us. You see what I'm saying? Then Colombia, then Panama, then Honduras, Nicaragua, every single place, you see? They have to be waiting for you. Something happens to you, they have to rescue you in the sea, bring you to the hospital. All that has to be taken care of. You have to have an insurance, all that shit, right? You have to have
Mhm.
a but you have to have also a communications crew, somebody who knows how to use the cameras, and you have to film the whole thing. You have to have a YouTube channel. You have to have some press, media. They are waiting for you. They are broadcasting your trip. Maybe some crazy gringo institution, National Geographic, whomever that is, Discovery Channel, whatever. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They have to know what you're doing, and they have to be waiting for you. You have to create that expectation, and that is what you need to build. That's the real thing. You know, the balsa, anybody can build a balsa. Uh, Build it well is a different thing, but it's a very simple technology. But you need to master it. That's why the first trip is going to be coastal. My first trip is not going to be Polynesia. Not going to be Polynesia. We're going to go all the way the coast, along the coast. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Along there, the reasons to do that are twofold, threefold. Number one, that was the main route. The main Peruvian route was coastal. That was the richer trade, the best route. And nobody has done it in 200 years. Second reason, it is actually a lot harder to sail along the coast back and forth than it is to go to Polynesia. If you go to Polynesia, you just follow the drift of the currents and the winds. That you can even go there on a basket case. You see, you can take a basket, you put yourself inside the basket, and you are there for what? I'm serious. You could do it. Um, in a basket.
Yeah.
But to travel to Mexico and back from Callao is really hard because of the winds. And when you get to the equator, you get the gales. So there's no wind anymore. So how do you do that? So I suppose if we manage to go to Mexico and back, that we will be the PhDs in balsa. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We will have solved all the fucking problems. So we build a second balsa, better one, and we go to Easter Island and back. And then we build a third balsa, an even better balsa, and then we go to Polynesia. So Polynesia for us would be like, vacation. See what I'm saying? So I'm not obsessing about Polynesia. I'm obsessing about building the right balsa. I think if we manage to build the balsa exactly as the Incas did, really, really get to know how to make a balsa work against the wind, tack, all that. We could even go to Europe in a balsa. See what I'm saying? Once you know how to make it, then you can do whatever you want. But it's hard to get to the right design. But we'll see. Hey man, I'm going to sleep now.
Okay. Well, that was a good talk. Think about this too. Imagine people going to Peru to unplug, right? And
Right.
they show up and they hand someone that their cell phone, and the only time that if it was an emergency that they need to get in touch with somebody, one of your team members gets them in touch with somebody. Other than that, you're on a balsa for a week with no phone.
No.
That would be a nice mental health thing too.
Yeah.
like you're forcing them to get back to, the roots. I like the balsa thing. It's a good idea for sure. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I thought you would be interested in those kind of crazy ideas.
I like that. And remember, did I tell you about the raft idea in the Amazon
Hey,
race? It's an actual real race where you build
really?
your own raft and you race in it down the Amazon in a raft. Could do that one too. But I like the idea of taking the San Pedro or the magic mushrooms or the ayahuasca and doing that. If San Pedro is coastal, so you can get San Pedro here in Lima.
In Lima, you can get anything, any of those things.
Okay. You know anybody that could get those things?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We should think about doing that sometime whenever we can actually see each other again. Face.
Hey, man. Hey, man, you take care of yourself. It's always a pleasure talking to
Yeah,
you.
it was really good talking to you, my man. Let's kind of keep maybe we could do another one of these things in the next few weeks or something and just touch base.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to my friend about the San Pedro if you want to do that.
Yeah,
And
that'd be fantastic. That'd be a nice experience for sure. I'm gonna be away we're gonna fly back to the States for the holidays, but we'll be back in January. We're gonna go to Florida and Puerto Rico in the next few weeks. But
wow,
yeah, it's gonna be I mean, the holidays are coming up, right? It's already almost November, the elections. So,
yeah,
but let's definitely plan that. Maybe when I get back, we could actually, hopefully, we can actually, like, you guys can come over or whatever, things can go back to normal, and then we'll go take some San Pedro somewhere and chill out, maybe on a balsa or a boat. We should at least get a boat. We should go get a boat somewhere, rent a boat or whatever,
yeah,
and on the ocean and take it. That'd be cool. I'd be down with that.
yeah, man. We should do something like that.
All right,
When
plan for it. I'm down. I'm open, man. I want to experience. I'm
next
tired. I'm tired of hanging out. I've already been here a couple of years, so I gotta dial it in.
so it's next week that you're leaving?
No, not so soon. I was going to actually leave next week, but my flight got canceled, so it's gonna be in a couple weeks, mid-November.
Okay,
I got a flight plan for that, so that will be the date.
okay, man. So we managed to do San Pedro before that, hopefully. Let's see.
Hopefully not. If not, when I get back for sure, we'll do a double dose. All right, my man. You take care and say hi to the fam for me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Peace.
Take care. Ciao.
Later. Ciao, ciao.